Hello, it's me, Red, and welcome back to the channel. Been a while, but I finally figured out what type of channel I want this to become. And while that isn't what I originally set out to do and requires more work from me, well, what can you do? Instead of making a New Year's resolution style video to kick off 2023, like so many others, I thought it would be better to do this instead. So let's think deeply about the media we consume. How should I start? After watching various events in 2022 unfold from the safety and comfort of my house, there was one thing bugging the life out of me, and that was the sheer amount of content and media being produced in a year. But more than that, how little the people that consume said media seem to think of it. When I say little, I don't just mean the raw time spent thinking about Captain America's ass, but also how scenes such as that ultimately mean very little to the person consuming it. Hundreds of anime and dozens of TV shows get produced every year, but even the most popular ones stir up very little discussion outside of controversy or hype beasting. I'm not calling anyone out, these are just my thoughts. It's almost akin to white noise at this point. Honestly, it reminds me about the old adage about the blue curtains. For those that don't know this story, there is this story about a teacher or professor that has lessons on a particular book. And in the book, a character enters a room where the author goes on to describe that room in detail. Namely, they describe how the curtains are blue. The students didn't think much about the line, and the teacher thought otherwise, almost kind of scolding them for not considering why the curtains would be blue. This, of course, spawned an ocean of people decrying the teacher, saying there's no reason to look this deep into it. People like you, who are constantly overanalyzing the littlest things, are exactly why English classes suck. And to be honest, I don't necessarily disagree with those people. Perhaps interrogating the curtains is the wrong thing to do. It most likely doesn't lead anywhere significant for the characters or the plot, but not considering anything in the media we consume and just being slack-jawed and wide-eyed, hoping the series just exposits its guts on the floor without us having to do any thinking, is also the wrong lesson to take from this. Why did the author make the curtains blue is a fair question. I mean, they could have described it in any way. Red, yellow, purple. They could have said the curtains have a ridge pattern, or they could have given no description at all. Why pick blue? Now, I don't want to go off on a tangent about that story. My point is to consider just how much content you consume and whether you're actually giving each one its proper time in the sun. How about this then? Imagine you're a brand new YouTuber and you want to start a reaction channel. Again, this isn't an attack on reaction channels. I originally wanted to be one, for God's sakes. Well, how do you get big quickly? You react to a variety of different shows that are either popular or trending. So you decide to watch and upload 8 different shows in a week back to back. Now imagine that those 8 shows are all S tier in terms of quality. I'm talking nuance, etc. How much would you actually be able to understand when consuming those shows in that manner? I bet you'd be lucky just to get the basic motivations for each character and a skeletal understanding of the plot. All the little intricacies about their personalities would be lost, and the details within the plot would be easily missed. Allow me to go even further. You would probably still enjoy those shows. You'd probably say that they're the best thing you've ever seen, but you wouldn't know why it was the best or how it even managed to engender those feelings inside of you in the first place. I'm not saying you have to write a whole dissertation on every piece of media you consume. I mean, I don't even do that. But my ultimate point is that I think it's somewhat disrespectful to the author of that work. For instance, I love Haikyuu. I think it's easily a top 5 sports manga. The difference between me and someone else who only enjoys the crazy back and forths Karasuno, the main team in Haikyuu, get into, which is valid, by the way. I'm not saying that you can't have that train of thought, is that I can tell you why the emotional highs are so high and why the lows are so soul-crushingly low. That there's extra commentary the author of Haikyuu is making about the players within the game that ultimately leads to those hype moments. Not only that, but to quickly consume and just as quickly dispose could also change the media landscape. Now, an author might be hesitant about crafting a conflict that requires more than just surface level interpretation. The audience actually has to do a little digging to arrive at the whole truth, and because of that, they may be scared to publish that work. Dear. Interrogating the curtains probably won't tell you a whole lot. You need to use wisdom and discretion to determine whether this line of logic is actually worth pursuing in the long run. But if the author has gone through the trouble of adding these details, connotations, and flavor text all over their work, the least you could do is respect them by asking why.